Hi, Matthew.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
How about you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, how about you?
Yeah, we're all good here today. And we're literally about to start our next presentation. So you're
All right.
timing, Matthew.
Perfect. Timing. Yeah.
Just before we start, do you have any questions before we go ahead?
Um, they are a little detailed because I kind of looked into you guys. And one of the things that stood out to me was kind of like your like inclusion networks, which I found really interesting was like the Indigenous reference groups,
Yep.
the gender balance committees and the all-in networks. And I was just wondering if those committees are kind of like, am I able to like join in with those communities? Because something I really value is really learning more about how I could be more inclusive and really learning about the challenges that they face and how I could also be an active force in, encouraging that community. And just wondering if that's a community just for once I'm employee, or is that also an open community to just join in and learn?
Yeah. Hi, Matthew, it's Chloe here. So that's a really great question, and I'm glad you're so interested in it. So when it comes to the employee reference groups, they are grassroots sort of foundational stuff that is open to only our employees. So if you were to join Aurizon, absolutely networks that you can look at being a part of. But if you're looking to sort of learn, more about cultures, challenges, barriers relating to certain diverse groups, there's certainly things you can tap into, outside of, an organisational environment. And there's a lot of sort of non-for-profits. So things like Open Doors are a local charity here that work around, raising awareness for LGBTIQ communities and youth and the challenges that they face. So what I'd encourage you to do in the absence of being within the organisation, look for community-minded groups that you could look to be a part of, because then if you were to join an organisation, you'd actually be bringing a lot of, intelligence from those groups into the organisation as well. So it would offer up a different perspective for us.
Yeah, because like something I am a part of is one of the student clubs at my university at QUT. And basically one of the values is Indigenous perspectives and learning about them. And respecting them. So yeah, I've already been quite involved, but yeah, definitely something I've been meaning to find is really like outside opportunities. So yeah, thank you for introducing me. Open Doors, like I haven't heard of them. So
yeah, and there's lots of different, really nice little niche community sort of non-for-profit organisations around that work with varying different, diverse groups. So depending on what you're passionate about or want to align yourself to or want to understand more, I would just, have a look around, what serves in line with the community in which you're in, and go from there.
Yeah, excellent. How about yourself? How have you experienced that kind of support whilst in Aurizon?
Yeah, so, well, from my experience, so my background is primarily with BHP. I spent a bit of time in the utilities industry, and I joined Aurizon about 18 months ago. And to be honest, Aurizon probably has the most passionate and engaged employee-led reference groups that I've actually come across. So part of our role, what we do here is we sort of own the inclusion strategy. We establish the organisational wide initiatives, but what gets us real traction from a ground level is these employee reference groups. They've always got a really clear commitment and purpose. They help facilitate change and education and awareness within the organisation as well, depending on what we've got going on. But it's also a way for us to shift the organisation from a cultural perspective. So when, people see that like-minded employees are really engaged with, topics around inclusion, it helps create that shift. So I would never sort of underestimate the value of the employee-led networks. But yeah, from my experience, the ones at Aurizon are actually quite exceptional.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing that you're leveraging your employees' background.
Yeah, and it comes back to the basic premise that we don't know all the solutions. So we actually rely on that bottom-up feed, to come up with the ideas and the thinking and the initiatives and, what's actually happening at our operational level, not just what we think is right from a corporate sense.
That's definitely appealing, because I really do value that, where like you're not just a number and you really have that individual contribution to a company to kind of bring about some change in different ways of thinking. Really love that you mentioned that.
No, and it's when we look at inclusion more broadly, Aurizon, the basic premise of inclusion at Aurizon is actually about the human connection. So we want to build such a strong human connection that's the reason we deliver great outcomes. So we're moving away from that really heavy-handed approach that it's just all about targets and numbers and all that sort of stuff. We want it to be an experience for people where they come into the organisation, and it's a felt experience around truly being included. That we've got high empathy, high care, and we really balance that out with achieving business outcomes. So so from my perspective, it's probably one of the more authentic approaches to inclusion that I've come across.
For sure, like I'm definitely hearing like it's really like ingrained in the company values from what I'm hearing from you. So yeah, really appreciate that.
No, cool. They're awesome questions. I'm glad you're so interested in it.
Yeah, because like I guess from my personal standpoint, it's like I really do value those sort of like really inclusive ideas and really learning more about how I could be a part of that. And just from sounding what Aurizon is, just from you as well, it just sounds like you really do believe that Aurizon does follow those. It's just not a number for them to just meet a requirement, but actually cares for that stuff.
Yeah. And like our focus is really around, well, how do we create teams that are a blend of both the demographic diversity and the cognitive diversity? So, when you think of driving, greater human connection and better business outcomes, it has to be a blend of the both. So it's not just your obvious diverse effects, but it's also bringing in that cognitive diversity as well. So people's experience, where they're from, all that sort of stuff that comes into creating an organisation that is actually truly balanced and reflective of the communities in which we operate.
Yeah. Something I definitely also want to question is also something I valued and experienced was I went on the Engineers Without Borders Design Summit, and that was really something special where I was able to like really communicate with the community that I was staying with and really sort out what their needs are and really trying to practice, being respectful in that community and really knowing how to best, what their best interests are and what would best kind of like an idea would really be picked up by the community. And just wondering if you had something like a humanitarian aid sort of like agenda as well, where employees can also join in those kind of activities alongside professional work.
Yeah, no. So not that, and Jane and James may know more on this one, but not so much that I know of Aurizon, but previous engineers that I've worked with used to be involved with the Engineers Without Borders, and it is amazing. Where you could look to sort of leverage it within organisations is some organisations have really favourable volunteer leave, so that's where you would start to link in programs like Engineers Without Borders. So definitely an opportunity for us, but definitely advocate for that program. I think it's excellent.
But yeah, that's definitely something I'm searching to kind of be more involved with alongside like getting like those, being part of like a professional organization where you can come up with those innovative ideas and in the modern world, but also bring that and adapt that in a way that can also bring forward to like developing countries. And that's somewhere I really want to go down my career pathway and learning those skills.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And when you think about inclusion, part of the sentiment that we've got here around inclusion is that it's beyond what we do internally as an organisation. It's really around how we create greater social value impact as well. So, where we partner with more Indigenous community-minded organisations, where we employ more Indigenous people, and these are just examples. The flow-on effect is actually just not about us internally as an organisation, but it's how we create greater social value impact through the work that we actually do. One of the areas that we're really looking at leveraging greater value at Aurizon is through flexible work. So we want to, shift to an end state that is, where employees are afforded the opportunity to manage their work-life balance, that we've got a culture that is truly flexible and outcomes driven. So again, that's where these opportunities start to come in. So if you were to have things that you were equally passionate about outside of work, maybe it just becomes around, well, how do we structure a role that allows you to do both?
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So job is definitely something we're considering as well.
Because like everyone lives a different life, and especially like mothers. I've really met a few of them where they really have a lot of responsibilities in the family, aside from like just studying, that they also work and also manage their own family responsibilities. I'm just like really amazed how mothers are able to be capable of thing and creating an environment for them would be something special for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's know more about you as well. Like, how long have you worked with Aurizon, and things you've appreciated or learned?
Yeah, so me personally, I've been with the organisation about 18 months now. But Jane and James, have you guys?
Yeah, so I actually joined Aurizon. It will be in September, I believe November, it will be 3 years that I've been here. Now, I have a slightly different story, and when we talk about inclusion, for me, this is where Aurizon was really strong, Matthew, because you may hear from my accent, I'm not Australian. I actually came over from the UK. It's 3 years in September, it will be. And I really struggled to get an opportunity in Australia. And Aurizon was the first company that actually would give me that opportunity and supported me to transition into the business. So I experienced it firsthand of how difficult it can be, as a lot of other people do. But Aurizon, that's why I'm so passionate about working here and what Aurizon stand for and what they live with through their values and diversity and inclusion, because it really is true. I'm very thankful for the support that they give me and continue to give me. And that's absolutely why I'm still here nearly 3 years later.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I hear like international students, like it's really a struggle for them to find like domestic work, because most internships are only available for domestic students. So yeah.
And James?
So Matthew, I've been in Aurizon since May last year. So it's been a great opportunity for me. So I graduated at the end of 2018. I was, I guess, a fresh psychologist graduate. So it was amazing to get an opportunity at Aurizon. And I think just the culture, everyone seems to be very open and accepting of everyone, and especially of new ideas. So I think coming into an organisation, I was given the responsibility and I guess the listening time that I can really appreciate, because I know a lot of my peers went into other organisations and they weren't given meaningful work or felt like they didn't really have a voice. So I definitely haven't felt that here. So it's been a really great journey so far, and keen to keep it going, because I feel like I can make a change with my ideas.
Yeah, wonderful.
We might jump into the presentation now, Matthew.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and Matthew, feel free to jump in and out. I know there are other presentations going on at the moment, but we will be going through a number of things. So we'll do introductions to you, and we'll start the formal introductions, and we will start the presentation. So I just want to check, Matthew, can you see that presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we will start off, and welcome to the Aurizon session today. So just formal introductions. Hand over to you first of all, Chloe.
Sure. So my name is Chloe Mossman. So my role is dual here at Aurizon. So part of my role is supporting, from a HR perspective, client groups in our technical services and planning part of the business, but I also head up inclusion nationally as well for the organisation.
My name is James Tooley. I work within the talent acquisition team. I am the psychologist in the team, and I manage all the psychometric assessments that we use for our safety and non-safety critical roles. And I work under Jane Hawley.
And my name is Jane Hawley. I'm the talent acquisition partner here at Aurizon, and I help to support the areas of technical services and planning, our corporate function, and our CFO and strategy area.
So before we jump into the formal part of today, I'd just like to do a quick acknowledgement to country. So let's pause to reflect on the fact that we are meeting on custodial land of the oldest living civilization in the world. This is a contested space, so I pay my respects to both the Jagera people and the Turrbal people, their elders, past, present and emerging, for they hold the hopes, dreams, traditions and cultures of Aboriginal Australia. So the Jagera and Turrbal people are the landowners of where we are currently in Brisbane. So I know this is a virtual event, so if you don't know which Aboriginal land or which mob is part of your land, it'd be a great educational piece for you to quickly check that out.
Oh, I live in Brisbane, so.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
Matthew. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is really who we are. So having a quick top line view of safety in action, how we deliver through our values and our safety, health and environment. We'll then touch briefly on what we do. So what is our core business? What are our centralised services? Our map of operations and our community giving funds. Before then, we move on to the actual topics that we're going to discuss with you today. And that's around diversity and inclusion, disability and mental health, veterans, gender and sexuality, flexible working, and then touching on our graduate programme towards the end.
So just to give you a quick overview of Aurizon. So we are Australia's largest rail freight operator and in the top 50 ASX companies. We used to be a part of Queensland Rail, and in June 30th in 2010, Aurizon separated from QR and was privatised. So the company owns and operates one of the world's largest coal rail networks, linking approximately 50 mines with 3 major ports in Queensland. So we've got 3 headquarters, one in Queensland, New South Wales and WA. So in Queensland, we're based in Fortitude Valley. In New South Wales, we're based in Newcastle. And in WA, we're based in Welsh Pool. So each year, Aurizon transports more than 250 million tonnes of Australian commodities, connecting miners, primary producers and industry with international and domestic markets. Aurizon provides customers with integrated freight and logistics solutions across an extensive national rail and road network. So we'll play you a quick video now.
In recent years, we have reshaped Aurizon and our service offering to customers, reaching our 3-year transformation target, delivering a number of important wins across the business. But our markets and competition are getting tougher. Some of our performance metrics have stalled. Our future success depends on being smarter, more efficient and agile. Strategy in action captures the essence of what we are and what we need to do. A framework for how we prioritise, make decisions and do business. Our purpose shares our brand promise and role, growing regional Australia by delivering bulk commodities to the world. Let's take a closer look at what this means. Growing. Our service and operational footprint contributes to and supports growth and economic development. Regional Australia. This is our focus on our regions, where our employees work and where we support and develop regional communities. Delivering bulk commodities. We deliver is a key part of what we do, delivering bulk goods for our customers and delivering economic outcomes to the world, helping to power communities around the world. Our vision sets out what we aspire to be, the first choice in bulk commodity transport solutions. First Choice puts a focus on our customers and our aspiration to become their leading provider. Bulk commodities are what we carry. We will provide solutions for our customers, not just transport. All of this is anchored by our existing values. Safety. We have a relentless focus towards zero harm. People. We seek diverse perspectives. Integrity. We have the courage to do the right thing. Customer. We strive to be the first choice for our customers. Excellence. We set and achieve ambitious goals. And our strategic levers will drive competitive advantage and sustainable performance. Optimize our existing core business. Excel to create competitive advantage. Extend to grow our business and deliver sustainable growth. Implementing our strategy in action will provide a platform to deliver growth and value for Aurizon now and into the future.
So just what we've heard in the video, so Aurizon's purpose is to grow regional Australia by delivering bulk commodities to the world. And our current vision is to be the first choice for bulk commodity transport solutions. And Jane will talk a little bit more about that bulk arm of the business soon. So what we're going to touch on next is just a little bit more of a thorough overview of our values. So our 5 Aurizon values, those being safety, people, integrity, customer, and excellence, are all expected from all employees. And we've developed a, behavioural framework that captures the essence of these 5 values in practice. So what I'm going to do is just quickly read for you what we expect from all of our employees under these values behaviourally. So for safety, demonstrate personal accountability for safety, proactively identify and communicate hazards and risks, and that's both in the operational space and the corporate space, and seek clarification when tasks are not clear, and stop activity if it is unsafe. For people, demonstrate genuine interest and care in the well-being of others at work, be respectful when listening to others and when sharing ideas and opinions, and collaborate with others to achieve better results. For integrity, speak up even when it is difficult to do so, take action when things are not right, show respect and integrity when working with others, acknowledge mistakes and share learnings, and behave in line with Aurizon's code of conduct. For customer, think like a customer and be sensitive to their challenges, be responsive, flexible and adaptive to customers' needs, and identify and implement better ways to deliver for our customers. And finally, for excellence, continuously improve the way we do things, find ways to exceed expectations, and assist others to perform at their best. Now, these values have been integrated into a lot of HR and talent acquisition processes. And from a personal point of view, I can strongly say that Aurizon is a values-based organisation through and through.
So we're now just going to touch a little bit on what we do at Aurizon. And our core business is split up into 3 areas. We have our coal business, our bulk business, and our network. So with our coal business, it provides critical service to Australia's 60 billion export coal industry. And it's the nation's 2nd largest source of export revenue. And this is going from data that we've got back from 2018 financial year. As a supply chain partner for our customers, we transport approximately 200 million tonnes of coal, which accounts for around half of Australia's export coal tonnage. We have our bulk business, in which this delivers in excess of 60 rail services daily to multi-commodity customers across different corridors and geographies. So we operate our bulk services in Queensland, Northern New South Wales and Western Australia. In Queensland, we service the Northwest Minerals Province from Mount Isa to the Port of Townsville, as well as from Central and Southwest regions. With our network, so we have over 2,600 kilometres of track for our trains to run. But this is a multi-user track, so also other businesses are allowed to use our track. With regards to our central services, we're split up into areas of corporate, technical services and planning, and CFO and strategy. CFO and strategy is obviously our financial side and strategic side of the business. Within corporate, we're talking about teams such as safety, health and environment, human resources, governance, risk and insurance, our legal team, corporate affairs, and our company secretary. And with technical services and planning, we're talking about the operational services. Rolling stock asset management, so things like mechanical engineering fits in there, inbound supply and procurement, technology, real estate, and project management, which includes that civil engineering side. Here you'll just see a map of Aurizon's operations. We always love to show this slide because it really gives you a great visual of our reach within Australia nationally. Then at Aurizon, what we're also very passionate about is our community fund giving. So since 2011, we have been partnering with our communities and we have delivered over 300 worthy community projects across Australia. This fund is run biannually and it provides cash grants of up to $20,000 to eligible community groups. The projects are primarily focused on safety, environment, education, or health and well-being, which is we're all very passionate about at Aurizon. However, our fund giving does go beyond our communities and into Australia nationally. And one of the examples of that is our recent donation towards the COVID-19 vaccine and how we've partnered with the University of Queensland for this. So we've donated $250,000 to help with that research and development to hopefully gain a vaccine that we are able to use, not just here in Australia, but globally.
So what I'd like to bring to everyone's attention just before we start our chat on diversity and inclusion is this statement that we put into all of our job ads. So at Aurizon, we believe in connection. It is our ability to connect that strengthens communities, industries, and builds economies. It helps to embrace diversity in our workplace, and that is the experience we want for everyone. We are building a culture where everyone is seen, heard, and valued because of their diversity. We value inclusion throughout the whole company.
Great, thanks, James. So I'm just going to now talk a little bit more specifically around inclusion and diversity here at Aurizon. So we'll start by talking around what it actually means for us. So in way of a definition, so inclusion and diversity is really around creating an environment where people feel valued, engaged and connected, and where the diversity of ideas, backgrounds and perspectives are brought together to create value. So we know that inclusion and diversity are two different things, but are both equally important. So when we look at diversity, diversity is really about the mix of people in the team. So it refers to all the ways in which we differ. So for example, people of Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander background, age, education, gender identity, sexuality and experience. So there's a number of different factors that go into diversity, both being the visible and the non-visible elements. When we talk to inclusion, similar to what James was saying earlier, it's really around getting the most out of the diverse perspectives in a team. So inclusion occurs when our diverse workforce feels valued, connected and respected for their unique perspectives and contribution to the organisation and their team success. So if we look at it from this perspective, if diversity is the what, then the inclusion is the how. So we understand, and we're very well aware at Aurizon, there is a huge opportunity when it comes to inclusion and diversity. And we know that a lack of diversity acts as a constraint on our business when we don't leverage the value from it. So how we go about doing this and why we care about it. So when we look at, there's a lot of reasons why we're so passionate about inclusion and diversity here at Aurizon, and there's a number of different reasons as to why we care so much. But first and foremost, the fundamental reason it is absolutely the right thing to do. So as an organisation with a national footprint, we need to reflect the communities in which we operate. But inclusion and diversity isn't just, about the strategies and initiatives we put in place. It becomes reflective of who we are as an organisation and central to our ethos. So fundamentally, it comes back to being the right thing to do. But we also know that inclusion and diversity drives much better business outcomes, particularly in the way of productivity, cost, innovation, and safety performance. We know where we have an inclusive culture, employees experience much higher levels of engagement and enablement. So how engaged they are to do their work and how enabled they also feel to do it. And we know that it gives us access to much larger talent pools, so both in the way of demographic and cognitive diversity as well. So when we consider Aurizon's journey, and I won't go into the finer details of this strategy other than saying that we do have a strategy to get us to our ultimate end state of creating a truly inclusive culture. Now, as an organisation, we've been on this journey for quite a number of years. And like most organisations, in the very early days, we had to start with quite a compliance heavy-handed diversity focus, which saw us focus on really strong targets. And the reason for us is that's what allows us to generate the initial change and start to create the shift. It then shifts us into a much more programmatic diversity and inclusion state. Again, very targets driven, still very targets focused and compliance focused. Where we're at now is really shifting into what we know as leader-owned inclusion and diversity. So it takes it away from that really heavy-handed targets-driven approach to something that is much more authentic and genuine, is led by employees and leaders across the organisation, and there's a real genuine connection to the purpose and why inclusion and diversity is so important to us. Now, in way of how we actually go about achieving our strategy, it's in a number of different ways, but there's a few areas that I'll call out. So we have a strategy where we focus certain areas that allows us to execute it based on a multifaceted approach. Key areas in which we focus are around gender balance. So we've got a really strong desire within the organisation to create a gender balanced organisation, and that applies to all genders. We have a strong focus on Indigenous inclusion. So that's really around focusing on the attraction, retention and development of our Indigenous workforce and creating social value impact. So bringing it back to that point before is that inclusion isn't just about us and what we do internally. It's really around the impact that we have on the communities in which we surround and the social value impact in which we create as a result. The LGBTIQ inclusion. So that's been one of our more successful areas in Aurizon and something we've been focused on for quite a number of years. So our primary focus in that area is how we continue to create an environment that is psychologically safe for everyone. Now, when we look at gender balance, Indigenous inclusion and LGBTIQ inclusion, they're all supported by key reference groups across the organisation. So these are employee-led networks that give us a real bottom-up approach and a grassroots level to create change, momentum, and care across the organisation. Now, we've got some other areas in which we focus on as well. So it's multicultural and all abilities, so disability inclusion, lifting our leadership capability to lead diverse teams, flexible work, progressive policies, and ultimately creating an inclusive culture. Now, when we talk about creating an inclusive culture with a diverse population, it doesn't come without our challenges. So when we look at challenges in ultimately getting to this truly inclusive state, it stems down to a few things, some of which I mentioned. So one is really around the availability of talent, acquisition of assets. So as you heard earlier, Aurizon has a fairly strong growth portfolio, but what it means for us as an organisation is sometimes we acquire assets that already have an existing workforce that we take on and may not be as diverse as what we're trying to achieve. So, it really shifts the composition of our workforce. Our existing workforce composition and culture. So as James mentioned earlier, Aurizon, in some form has been around for quite a long time, given we come out of Queensland Rails. So that has an existing workforce composition and culture in which we need to align to our future state, and leadership capability. So leading diverse teams isn't always easy. So we need to really focus on leadership capability as well. Now, when it comes to these challenges, there's certain strategies and initiatives that we employ to help mitigate that for us. Now, we employ build strategies, and this is particularly around talent. So what that means is that where there is not talent available on the open market, we make an invested effort to see how we can build that within the organisation. We have key partnerships that we get a lot of value from. So, for example, the National Association of Women in Operations, Career Trackers, which helps Indigenous students get through university, and also Clontarf, which is another Indigenous foundation in which we support. So that recognises that we cannot generate change alone, and key partnerships are essential to us creating a truly inclusive culture and also attracting diverse talent. We look at accelerating targeted development. So for diverse people within the organisation, recognising where we need to shift composition, we look at having accelerated targeted development programs. And we also have a heavy focus on developing our leaders across the organisation. So making sure they have the capability to lead diverse teams to get the most value out of it. And we run multiple programs at varying levels across the organisation. Now, when we talk to other areas in which we focus on and that are imperative to our success, particularly in the way of inclusion and diversity, so one area we focus on is the gender pay gap. So you may hear a lot about the gender pay gap in the media, and we've absolutely got a pay gap that exists in the organisation, but over a number of years, we've been making a really concerted effort to bring down that pay gap. Now, the reason why that pay gap exists is for a number of reasons. It's the nature of the organisation. We have a lot of legacy issues in which we're trying to deal with as well. But you can see from a base pay gap perspective, we've got it down to 3.99%, which is a really good result considering the history of the organisation. And what you can't see on this slide is that we actually are placed really favourable within our industry and sector as well. So the way in which we get the gender pay gap down, we focus on certain initiatives such as enhanced merit and shifting the composition. So what that means is making sure that we get more diverse talent into leadership roles, so we've got less of a gender pay gap. Now, when we talk gender pay gap, the statistics you can see are based on an aggregated number. So where we focus a lot of our effort is in pay equity. So pay equity is where we look at like-for-like roles and making sure where there is, for example, a male and a female in similar roles, is that a pay gap does not exist. So that's where we get the most value from focusing on gender pay gap and really bringing that number down. We have diversity targets because we recognise that they're still important and an enabler for change. So female representation, our target for FY21 is at 23%. Currently, we set at 22% when it comes to gender representation or female representation within the business. We also have a target on Indigenous representation. So FY21 target is 5.5%, but we actually sit at around 6.2% at the moment, which is a really great representation of Indigenous employees across the organisation, particularly when you look at the demographic across Australia. The population sort of sits at, I think, around the 2 to 3%. So we're represented really well with our Indigenous employees. Our focus is on developing and retaining them. Now, the other two key areas that we focus on within the organisation, and we recognise that as some of our biggest levers for change and driving inclusive culture here at Aurizon, is around flexible work and our policies. So flexible work has existed at Aurizon for quite some time, but what we're really looking at doing is how we continue to evolve in this space and get greater opportunities out to our operational employees where it traditionally doesn't exist, or it's much more of a challenge for us. So we want to be able to get to a state where employees have the freedom to manage their work-life balance while still delivering improved performance for the organisation. So we also recognise that where we offer flexible work, it opens us up to greater diverse talent as well to bring into the organisation. Now, when it comes to our policies, so not only do we make sure that they're competitive and externally benchmarked, we make sure that our policies are inclusive for everyone. So that is really important to us here at Aurizon, to make sure that we've got policies that are equitable, fair and inclusive, but also market competitive as well. An example of where that might play out in the organisation is parental leave policy. So making sure that we don't apply a heavy gendered lens on it. So making sure that all diverse groups have access to the same entitlements under parental leave. So that's all I was going to cover off on the inclusion and diversity front. We've just got one final video to round out this part.
At Aurizon, we are a vital link when it comes to connection. We connect products with ports, commodities to customers, and regional Australia with the world. It's our ability to connect through our vast logistics network that strengthens communities, enables industries, and builds economies. And behind all of those powerful connections, beyond the commodities, rail networks, and consumers, lies another kind of connection, the human connection that makes it all possible. When people come together and connect, it creates real energy and sparks powerful moments of insight, which can change the way we see the world. Genuine human connection at Aurizon enables performance, triggers innovation, solves the biggest problems, and unearths the best opportunities. Connection, it changes our perspective. It's at the heart of inclusion. It helps to embed diversity in our workplace. And that's the experience we want for everyone at Aurizon. Through our inclusion strategy, we're not only fostering a diverse workforce, but we're cultivating a culture of connection so that everyone feels included because they know that uniqueness is respected. Different opinions, fresh ideas and individual attributes. At Aurizon, we seek diverse perspectives. For us, inclusion isn't just about targets or numbers. It's not about representation, nor is it about finding our similarities. It's about having the courage to be yourself every day. We're building an Aurizon where everyone can be seen, heard and valued because of their diversity. Where we celebrate the fact that great minds don't think alike. A workplace where everyone experiences inclusion. One that allows all of us to bring our whole selves to work, to connect and share our unique perspectives to contribute to achieving great things. We value people and their diverse perspectives because together it's our Aurizon.
Okay, so we're just going to move on to discussing disability and mental health. So what is disability? And this is where there can be differences of opinion. But a disability is any condition that restricts a person's mental, sensory or mobility functions. It may be caused by accident, trauma, genetics or disease. And a disability may be temporary or permanent, total or partial, lifelong or acquired, visible or invisible. With the actual demographics of disability in Australia, over 4.4 million people in Australia have some form of disability. That's 1 in 5 people. And when you split it down into females and males, that's 17.8% of females and 17.6% of males in Australia have a disability. However, when we actually look at what different types of disabilities there are actually only 4.48% of people with a disability in Australia that actually use a wheelchair. All other types of disability do come under that mental, sensory area, as well as some different mobility functions there. So how do we look at that within Aurizon and what can we actually do? There are a number of things that we have been able to do. And what was great that we were able to do is when we actually built our head office in Brisbane and we refurbished our head office in Rockhampton, we were able to build and refurbish these buildings with a lens on disability. So we were able to look at access. We were able to look at having suitable recreational areas, but we were also able to look at what other spaces we could have. So those quiet spaces for when we really needed to concentrate or to have some time away from others in the office. So that was fantastic to be able to have that lens when we were building there. We've also been able to make quick wins within the talent acquisition team itself. So with our advert templates that we've used for our external advertising, we've been able to update those and include our text about inclusions. Also, when we actually invite people in for interviews, we send out, as part of our recruitment process, we send out an invitation and that they have been updated to include text about reasonable adjustments that is required to join us for an interview. And we were continuing to partner with the rest of the business to understand, and we're also partnering with Work Assist to understand what we can do as a business to support. Now, in the last year, we have created new partnerships from National Disability Services to Australian Network on Disability, the Inclusive Organisation, and with SEEK. We've managed to attend a number of events over the last year. We were able to be at the Accessibility Day in Rockhampton and Stanwell, and we also hosted that roundtable event with SEEK and other diversity and inclusion specialists. So we really have started to play an active part in the disability area. Now, that's more based on the corporate side of the business. We do recognise that we are still on a journey with our depots and our network, but we are continuing with this over the next few years, and we really hope to be making some inroads into what that looks like on the network in particular.
Okay, moving on to mental health, and this is a very passionate area of mine as a psychologist. So at Aurizon, we offer a free, comprehensive, independent Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, provided by Converge International, designed to support our employees with the challenges and demands of work and personal life. The EAP is a professional counselling service that offers confidential short-term support for a variety of work-related and personal problems that may be affecting our employees at work or at home. The EAP gives our employees and members of their families access to qualified professionals, which may include psychologists, social workers, and management coaches. So at Aurizon, we offer all of our employees access to 5 face-to-face or virtual EAP sessions per annum, and these can be used by themselves or those in their immediate family. It's also important to note that our EAP services are 24/7, so they don't have to be used within working hours. Now, in terms of the support that's given, if an individual needs or requires more than 5 sessions, it's definitely not a situation where they're cut off from support. It simply means that a conversation with their manager can be had to see how, as a business, we can support their ongoing need for support. So if we all turn our eyes to the wheel on the left-hand side of this slide, this goes through all the types of support or assistance that our EAP program can give. And some of these may be interesting or new for some of our viewers. So just quickly going around, what the EAP can assist with is legal support, employee support, which is kind of that everyday coping, manager assistance if there's any need for coaching or advice around how to better support or manage your employees. Career assistance, so if someone's in an inroads at the moment or isn't really sure where they want to take their career, they can have a conversation around that. Conflict assistance, and that's for support from both work-related conflict or conflict that may be arising out of work, nutrition and lifestyle assistance, money assistance, and family assistance. We are also, as an organisation, a big advocate for Are You OK Day. So we do have our September morning teas that are both in corporate and in our operational world. However, it is definitely an ongoing conversation that we encourage throughout our conversation, not just a once a year. And a lot of our trains regionally do have Are You OK symbols on them as well. Now, what I'm very excited about is that as of last year, we've started an initiative to have mental health first aid officers within our organisation. So these are internal employees that will be these officers. So this is really, I guess, a middleman of support between managers and the EAP. So currently we're training up our employees who want to be officers in how to deal with conversations that employees might be having with having a bad day, where they can help them themselves or redirect them to the appropriate support moving forward.
So just moving on to veterans and how we support at Aurizon. And it was a couple of years ago that we really wanted to move forward with supporting veterans, but we actually didn't know what the definition of a veteran was. And there was quite a lot of talk within the team about what does that look like. What we actually found out was really anyone who has served one day in the Australian Defence Force, which includes people who aren't deployed and employed in any capacity, as they all sign an agreement when they join to be deployed at any notice and to protect Australia at any cost. It is a commitment made by the employed member and the family of the armed forces. So that was quite an eye-opener for us because we struggled with how many years does a veteran need. It really is just that one day of being in the Australian Defence Force. So what we recognised was that the benefits that members of the Australian Defence Force can bring to the organisation. The research has found that veterans have more developed problem-solving skills and greater confidence in leading teams and are more likely to work well under pressure. These are abilities that we look to bring into Aurizon. We really see a strong alignment in the Defence Force's values and the Aurizon values, in particular in acting with integrity. So it was absolutely key that we did join the Veterans Commitment. So the Veterans Employment Commitment allows businesses to make a public commitment to support the employment of veterans. The commitment is open to all Australian businesses that would like to benefit from the skills and experience of our ex-service men and women. And we've had some fantastic results within the Aurizon business, and we're fully supportive of veterans employment.
Okay, we're going to move on to gender and sexuality. So I just want to reiterate that we have the All-In Network, which was formed to support our commitment to diversity and inclusion with a focus on the lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, transgender, intersex and queer community. So by providing support and education and raising awareness internally, All-In encourages employees of all sexualities, sexes and genders to bring your whole self to work, which is so important for decision making and offering ideas to the organisation. So a few things that I'll call out here. We're a member of Pride in Diversity. So Pride in Diversity is the national non-for-profit employer support program for LGBTIQ workplace inclusion, specialising in HR, organisational change and workplace diversity. Pride in Diversity publishes the Australian Workplace Equality Index, which is Australia's national benchmarking instrument for LGBTIQ workplace inclusion. We are an active member of Work 180. So Work 180 is an advocate for working women, which provides job applicants with a transparent directory of endorsed employers who support diversity in inclusion and equality. So in order for an organisation to be an endorsed employer, which Aurizon is, we need to meet set criteria, which looks at information around pay equity, flexible working arrangements, paid parental leave, and equal opportunities within the workplace. So because we tick that criteria, we're able to advertise our roles on Work 180. Lastly, what I'll talk about on this slide is the Wear It Purple Day. So we, as an organisation, really support Wear It Purple Day, as we know that the experiences of young LGBTIQ kids can be quite rough, and we just want to know that they're definitely supported by Aurizon. Okay, moving on to flexible working. So at Aurizon, we 100% understand that working the 9 to 5 Monday to Friday roster isn't necessarily a possibility for a lot of our employees for things such as medical reasons, care responsibilities, transitioning to retirement and study. So we have a policy in place where we can offer flexible working arrangements internally. So as an employee, this is a discussion that can be had with your manager, and then you just lodge an application form. So we've always been an advocate for flexible working, and we're even more of an advocate now because we understand that, you know, our working from home model, which has been organised through COVID times, has really worked, and we've still been able to be incredibly productive and efficient. So as an organisation, we're really backing this even further, and it is an initiative of HR and talent acquisition to work on in the foreseeable future. So the types of flexible working arrangements in Aurizon include working part-time, job sharing, which is when 2 or more employees work part-time and share the responsibilities of one position, having graduated return to work. So this may be where you've had time off and then you're coming back into the organisation where you can start off with reduced hours and then increase those back to your normal limit over time. Adjusting start or finish times, so being able to start work earlier or start work a little bit later depending on your circumstances. The averaging of hours, where instead of a per week hour count, we may be able to have a per month hour count where you can spread those hours out however much you need over a month. Compressed working hours, where you work more hours in a day and you work less than the 5 days per week. And of course, the one that'll resonate the most for us at the moment is working from home. Now on the screen, we've got a flexible working picture here, which was created through Work 180, and we have 2 of our talent acquisition employees in this picture. So in the middle on the left, we've got Steph with her dog Zeus, and on the bottom on the right, we've got Jane and her dog Bella. So over COVID times, we really connected in with Work 180 to show how at Aurizon working from home is really working for us, and they loved to hear about our experiences.
Great, thanks James. And just on to the final point of our discussion today, and we wanted to just talk a little bit around our graduate programme and what we provide here at Aurizon. So our graduate programme consists of a 2-year programme. And with that programme, you do get on-the-job experience working on various projects, meeting different teams and industry sectors, and across locations across Australia that are aligned to your stream. So there's absolutely those rotations that will take part in that programme. There's also structured development. So individualised development programme focused on both personal and professional skills. So what we like to do is look at actually what you're bringing to Aurizon and enhance those skills and develop them further. We also have a mentoring programme here. So you'd be matched up with leaders who have experience and knowledge which is really invaluable to your professional development and career opportunities moving forward. And then our buddy programme. So you'll be buddied up with and one of your peers, so somebody that may have been in the graduate programme before and understands and can give you insight and fast track your learning within the programme. What is also great is you would get a chance to be part of our graduate showcase. So within the cohort that you start in, you would be split into teams and you would be given a real life example or real life situation within Aurizon that we are trying to overcome or develop. And we would be looking at all of these teams to really research this area and present ideas of how we can fix an issue or how we can develop or move forward with. And at the end, you do actually present this to the CEO, Andrew Harding himself, and the rest of the business. And then a winner is chosen and it is actually implemented into the Aurizon business. So a huge opportunity to have visibility throughout the Aurizon business. Now, with the actual sourcing period itself for the graduate program, so we normally go out sort of February, March time of each year to start the process, and it can be a variety of roles that we have available. So we do have the what I would say the traditional streams, so engineering, and that could be in mechanical, civil or electrical engineering. We also have what we call our corporate roles, so that could be our HR graduate. And there's a new role that we brought in this year, which was a technology role. So, but that was having a view over the whole of our technology department. So it was great to be able to focus on that and bring that in new this year. Also, what we were looking for and what was new this year is a business analyst. So we were able to bring in a business analyst to work across our technical services and planning area. So as I alluded to earlier, that's a huge area of the business. That's engineering, procurement, real estate, so much involved in there. And this graduate position gets to have a view of all of those areas. So a fantastic opportunity. And what we are looking at over the next few years is extending that. How can we give our graduates even more of a view to the business and to be able to support them? Because what we're really looking for is a graduate to join with us, to grow with us and stay with us. That's what we want. We want you to be future leaders of our business, whether that be from a people perspective or whether that be from that technical subject matter expert. We really are looking for you to join and stay with us.
So here we just have a visual of our inclusion calendar. So these are sort of main events that are happening throughout the year. So the next one we have is that we're at Purple Day, which is happening on the 25th. So I guess it's just a visual representation of what we have on our agenda through the year.
Great. Thanks, James. So that is actually the end of our presentation today. We'd like to thank you for joining us and we'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say thank you. Like the amazing depth of detail and acknowledgement of your challenges is really amazing. And then showcasing like what you could do and what further steps you're going to make is really, I think, a really amazing thing that you showcased throughout this presentation.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, it was really amazing how you just really went in depth with just the variety, I think, and the depth, I think is really something unique, which I'll never really realize when I was just looking through the website. So I really appreciate that aspect.
And thank you for saying that, Matthew. And sometimes it's quite challenging to know, where to pitch a presentation, what people will be interested in, and we hopefully have hit the mark with that today.